Good morning, everyone. This is Russell Rucker, and I'm here for another Constitution Talk. A couple things that I want to talk about today. And I want to go back into the 13th Amendment for a moment to help you to understand how some of these novel ideas just aren't correct, but they still leak into our public discourse, and that's really where I'm going today, is the misconceptions. Now, our president did sign an executive order that changed what they call birthright citizenship. Well, birthright citizenship doesn't exactly exist. It's not the language of the Constitution. But some of the states have sued in federal court, and they're going to try to stop this move to end birthright citizenship. Now, the important thing that I'm saying here, it's actually the 14th, not the 13th. I get a little confused sometimes myself on some of the numbers. But what's important here is these states suing over the 14th Amendment or birthright citizenship, however you want to discuss it. And others saying, well, gee, there were 28 states that didn't sign on to it, so they must all agree with the executive order. But that's not necessarily true either. And we need to stop looking at it this way in politics. Is if you haven't signed on to something, you must agree with it, or you must be opposed to it if you aren't on my side. Well, sometimes you see a number of states already challenge it. Why bother go and challenge it too? It's still going to go up in court. All you really need is one to work its way up through the court system. The other thing that was discussed, and which I thought was just absolutely ridiculous, is this idea that birthright citizenship somehow was for the benefit of white people, to stop others from becoming citizens. Well, that's just a complete misunderstanding of the amendment itself. And that's why I wanted to discuss it today. And I know we've discussed it in other videos as well, but this is kind of a whole new tack. And I think people really have to understand that. Now, keep in mind, our Constitution really was only written on 4 pages of paper. It's not a lengthy document. So all the time we spend discussing it and debating it is far more than the actual written word was to begin with. But here's the 14th Amendment in Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the citizens wherein they reside. Now, that's kind of interesting because I never saw myself to be a citizen of a state. Citizens of the United States, yes. So it's interesting how they're thinking of this. Now, keep in mind, way back when we were individual colonies and independent states, we didn't have to join in with the Union. We didn't have to sign on to this Constitution. In fact, states like North Carolina actually went through 2 different ratifying conventions before they were able to get it achieved. So their people were seen as citizens of their state. And each state was, in that respect, seen as citizens of their state. So it's much different than we see it today, as we are citizens of the United States. There's also a Supreme Court decision that ruled that just because you gave up citizens of the United States didn't mean that you had sworn off citizenship of the state from which you were from. But this idea of born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and that is key, is subject of jurisdiction. So it wasn't meant for people that were tourists, people that were diplomats, people that were here on student visas, or however it is you arrive here, just a tourist visa. And if you had a child, it was never meant that that child would be an American citizen, as they like to argue today. In fact, the whole purpose here is so that children of African Americans, the slaves, those children would be citizens. And keep in mind, we're talking about these amendments after the Civil War. And the 13th, 14th, and 15th delve into how we're going to treat the slaves, giving them a full citizenship, giving their children citizenship, giving them access to the courts, all these things to make them equal to the other citizens. And that's where we're talking about here. So this idea that we are trying to protect white people is kind of flipping it on its head. We're actually trying to protect the black children, is what we're actually trying to do. So wherein they reside, and it goes on, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of laws, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection thereof. And I am reading the Constitution directly from my book, Textualism and Originalism, where the Constitution is scrolled. So that's what I'm actually reading from, is an exact language of our Constitution. So I just want to bring this up because this idea that somehow now this language was to protect white people when it was to protect black people, I just want some intellectual honesty. What really is at play here? Now, is the president right that birthright citizenship should go by the wayside? Well, as I read the Constitution and I understand the arguments, I kind of think he's right. But will the court say he's right? And that's a whole nother ball of wax. And in my view, I doubt that they will. But either way, I look at the Constitution not by how the court rules, but by what it actually says and what it actually means. So when we're talking about people complaining that 28 states didn't sign on to this lawsuit, I don't think it makes any difference. And this idea that because they didn't sign on to this lawsuit, they were actually for it. Well, I don't think that's really can be construed as an honest argument either. When we get to the Constitution and all these novel opinions and theories of people trying to get around things, when we really should be looking at the exact language of the document itself and what it really means. And that, my friends, is what's truly important. And anytime you get in a discussion where somebody's trying to worm around and get around some section, you have to ask yourself, why? Is it just to benefit your side of that argument? Most cases, that's exactly what it is. I'm not necessarily saying that here. But you have to wonder each time what their true motive is. This idea trying to say that this was to protect white people, it's just mind-boggling that anybody would come across as making a statement there other than what are they really trying to say. Well, I want you to think about that and think about any time somebody comes up with an argument you haven't heard before. Ask yourself, why are they saying this? Is there some purpose, some documented reason? Is there some theory? Is there something they've learned through the course of study that changes their mind? All these things matter. So with that, we'll catch you next time on the next Constitution Talk. You folks have a good day for now. Bye now.